Alright, looks like we are good to go. Now that I finally got everything set up, I think, I just gotta take care of my computer on the side and pop out chat so I can see some stuff while I'm doing other things here. Hey Clawpaw, how you doing? Do you have any monsters for recommendation tonight? Otherwise I can go off of my list. Alright, just I'm doing fine. Was running around a bit yesterday and had some things scheduled up, or messed up my schedule. So I don't say mess up my schedule. It was a nice surprise, some things, and was able to readjust my live stream to today. So I am now here on Tuesdays rather than on Monday, just for this week. Next week we'll more than likely be back to Mondays. Normally I would be playing D&D with my one group of friends, but I took a short sabbatical from that for the time being, and we'll probably get back into it with them sometime in September. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, no problem with the nothing for a recommendation today. That's cool. I got plenty of other recommendations from people via Twitter and not Twitter, TikTok, and some YouTube commenters as well. All right, and with that, let me switch over to the live screen, and we'll get into this. All right, I was unfortunately on Sunday having quite the issue with a bunch of just technical issues over the whole day. Had problems with my shorts left and right, had to keep fixing things, and then I got into making the episode for the week as well, and realized that I totally missed something in the episode, so I have to go back and re-record the episode, or at least hopefully fix part of the episode. And it's just been a crazy week, technically for me. It's very strange. Yes, I also forgot my highlighter. All right, so let's jump into this and take a look at what I have for the week here. Let me move that all the way over here just so I can remember. I do have my list prepped for next week because I had to shift a whole bunch of stuff around. Hey, Cornucopia, glad you could join it on this Tuesday rather than Monday. I've already gone through and taken care of these, so I'm just going to be looking at my planning phase for the week to come. So we got some big ones here like Ogremoch and Old Hydra, or some other ones too, like we've already taking a look at the Purple Worm. But we also have some from Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, which could be kind of fun to look at, like the Inquisitor of the Sword, or of the Mind, and of the Tome, I believe. So I've spread those out because someone asked for those. Yes, definitely can relax now that things have eased up a little bit. I still have to record a couple episodes, but I'll get to them when I can. It's not too big of a rush. All right, and let's jump right into this with, I don't know, let's take a look at the Inquisitor of the Sword. I think that one would be kind of fun to expose. All right, let me just grab this. It is a very, I think it's like a rip from D&D Beyond that I got my hands on, so please bear with the weird nature of this PDF. Alright, and let's see here. Inquisitor. Alright, those are going to be all the way at the bottom somewhere. Sire of Insanity from Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica. Yes, I will take a look at that. Let's see here. You know, since you have that recommendation, let's go ahead and throw that up here and see what we got. Let's get the Guildmaster's Guide. There we go. I really enjoy using the monsters from this book. There's a lot to it. Don't worry about it, Cornucopia. That's completely fine. Not a big deal. All right, we are looking for Sire of Insanity, page 197. So that would be on probably 198. Come on. There we go. Oh, quite an interesting looking fiend we have here. All right, let's zoom in on the stat block and see what we have for this rather huge fiend. All right, that can go away. All right, Sire of Insanity, a huge fiend and demon with 17 AC. It is classified as huge, as we already saw me say plenty of times before, and 15 hit dice, 19 Constitution, and we probably don't need Wisdom or Intelligence, or excuse me, Wisdom or Charisma, but I'll throw them in anyways, and we should have a CR 12. And with the base information out of the way, we'll take a look at the skills section, and we have ourselves 4 saves of Constitution, Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma. That's pretty good for a fiend, not gonna lie. And then on top of that, we also have a whole bunch of damage resistances of cold, fire, lightning, plus the standard fare of weapon damages and damage immunities to poison. But because of the one condition immunity, or excuse me, the one damage immunity, we will only use resistances for this instance, which will give our monster an extra 25% hit points. All right, moving down into the monster traits area, we have Aura of Mind Erosion. Let's see here. Any creature standing in an area, so obviously it's an AoE, makes a wisdom save. On a successful save, the creature is immune to this aura for the next 24 hours. And that's really strange. They put that ahead. Usually that's at the end. Anyways, on a failed save, the creature has disadvantage for 1 minute on wisdom and charisma checks and on wisdom charisma saves. Interesting. At the start of each of the turns, the Sire can suppress this aura until the start of the next turn. That's fascinating. So the monster can actually stop the aura if it wants to, but I guess it's every creature. So even some of the Sire's, allies could be affected by this. All right, well, regardless, there's going to be no effect on this monster trait already, so we can skip over that and not really worry about that whatsoever. We do have some innate spellcasting, though, and its ability is Charisma. Save DC 10 plus 10 to hit, or excuse me, save DC is 18 plus 10 to hit, and it has the following spells: Clairvoyance, Crown of Madness, Major Image, Suggestion, and 1 day each of Confusion and Mass Suggestion. Well, Crown of Madness probably is going to be a little bit of damage. I just don't know what level that is off the top of my head. Let me look that up quick. Crown of Madness is a 2nd level spell, but actually doesn't do any damage from my resource on the side here, so that's good to know. So we don't have to worry about any of the monsters' innate spellcastings here, because they just do some forms of condition immunities or condition effects, which, as far as I'm concerned, they don't take any kind of effect, provided that they're not constricted, restrained, or frightened. Those are the only ones we really worry about. After that, we have magic resistance, which obviously will take effect, and we'll see that our Sire gets a bonus +2 effective AC bump on top of that from the saving throw, so our monster's going from 17 to 21 AC. And then next we'll move right into the attacks and actions of our monster. So before I forget, as I am prone to do, we'll give our +10 to hit right off the bat. And then we'll take a look at the damage and see what that calculates out to be. So we get a multi-attack of 1 bite and 1 claw. I'm surprised it's not 2 claws, because that is usually the case. So the first bite will be, let's see here, 25.5 damage from the piercing damage, and an additional 16.5 psychic damage for a total of 42 damage from its bite alone, which is a pretty heavy hit. After that, we have a claw swipe of 10.5 slashing damage and an additional 9 psychic damage for a total of 19.5. So our multi-attack will be a combination of both of these for a total of 61.5 damage. And then we will simply get the multi-attacks all set through here for a total of 61 damage for its full complement of attacks. Alright. Well, right off the bat, I'm seeing a CR 11. And it's only 2 attacks. So one from the bite and one from its claws. And that's pretty much it. Maybe Mirror Image might do something in this effect, since it's something it could probably concentrate on. Let me just take a look at Mirror Image here, just to double check that spell. Alright, and Mirror Image allows 3 illusionary duplicates. You don't have to concentrate on it, but it only lasts a minute. So it's something that would be cast during combat, and would definitely drop the OCR to 0 for 1 round. So that really probably couldn't help. Crown of Madness definitely is an action. Suggestion and Clairvoyance are both actions, but you wouldn't use Clairvoyance in combat anyways. And then Confusion and Mass Suggestion. Well, unless they're suggesting something from the Aura of Mind Erosion, I'm seeing a slight overrating here on this Sire of Insanity. This is one of the rare times when we have such a beefy monster, so to say, that it's coming out a little less, surprisingly enough. Alright. Well, we've got an 11. It's supposed to be a 12. Overrated, only slightly. And actually, a lot of its items here are pretty close. Yeah, I've got the magic resistance in. So that's taken into account here, because the effective AC is 21. And it has 196 effective hit points. So 196 with CR 9 expects 16. That is, what, 5 over? So that's going to be a +2 shift up into DCR 11. So we've got a bit of a tanky monster here. What I would probably do is, the easiest thing may be to just give it a little bit more hit points, since it's already on the tankier side to begin with. Let's start bumping up some hit points here and see how much it takes to move it into a CR 12. If we go with 16, well, there you go. It just needed one more round of hit dice. We could also increase the damage dice a little bit from either the bite or the claws. I mean, probably the claw would be the easiest, since its damage is a little on the lower side. So we wanted to bring up the offensive capabilities of the Sire. Then I would look there and manipulate that a little bit. So if we got, let's say we want to add a little bit more psychic damage, and we have 2d8, so that's 4.5. So an additional 4 to the 9 would be 13. So let's switch the 9 to 13. And that only brings it even higher into the CR 11. We would need to go a little higher. So let's say we go do that as 48 psychic damage in the claw attack. So then we would be looking at, was that 18 points of damage? So let's switch that to 18. And there we finally have a CR 12. So we have 2 options here to fix the Sire of Insanity and bring it up to the CR 12, because unfortunately we don't have any other way of seeing where maybe from the spells there's a bonus being added into it. So we can either, 1, make it a little bit more tanky and add 1 more hit die, bringing up the average hit points just a little bit, or we can add 2 more damage dice to at least the psychic damage in the claws, and then that would also bring the Sire of Insanity up to a CR 12, giving it a little bit more offensive capability. And honestly, I would probably go for the higher damage. It just makes battles a little bit more intense, and more fun that way. Alright, so let me take a note here, since we found this to be overrated ever so slightly. And go back to my list. So, let's see here. It's supposed to be 12. Sire of Insanity will go into the list. And this is what? GGR. There we go. And Sire of Insanity. X. We'll do an A for that. And then what did we find here for it? 11, 10, and 11. Oop, wrong one. Still going to the wrong items here. 11, 10, 11. Rating is overrated. Notes, quick fix. Either one +1 hit die, or +2 D8 to psychic damage. In claws. There we go. Alright, our Sire of Insanity. By the tool here, we found a CR11. It's a printed CR12, so it's slightly overrated, and we have a couple ways of making it a quick fix to get it up to the CR12 that it's expected to be. Moving on, unless there's any other recommendations, I do have Van Richten's guide open for the Inquisitors. So we could look at the Inquisitor of the Sword, since it's right here, and go from there. This is going to be a little hard to read. Let me zoom in on this. It's not going to be the best, but it's all I have for the moment. I'll have to get myself a better copy of this at some point. Alright. And Van Richten's. Oh, I do have them all written out. Good. Okay. Alright, resetting. The Inquisitor of the Sword from Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. This monster, in quotes, humanoid, has 16 AC from a breastplate. It's medium with 14 D8. Let's see here. Constitution is 14. And we don't really worry about the Wisdom or Charisma, so we'll just move on to there. And it's supposed to be a CR8. Alright. And with those base stats out of the way, we'll take a look at the skill section. And we have, looks like 3 saves of Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma. So that's going to give our Inquisitor of the Sword a +2 effective AC bonus. And then it has some condition immunities, which we don't care about. And that's pretty much it for the skills. So we'll just take a look quickly at the monster trait that it has of Metabolic Control. So, Metabolic Control, at the start of each of its turns, the Inquisitor regains 10 hit points and can end one condition on itself, provided the Inquisitor has at least 1 hit point. Well, that's a cute trait right there. Not only is it getting regen, but it's also stopping a condition, which is fantastic. So if it's blinded, it can stop being blind, or if it's unconscious, I guess technically it could stop unconsciousness. If it still has 1 hit point anyways. Generally speaking, unconscious is 0. But anyways, so we're going with regen of 10 per round, which is going to give it an additional 30 effective hit points for the first 3 rounds of combat. And let's see here. We also have a bonus action, which is neat. They've added that in, which is a little nice to see. And the actions. So we'll start with, let's see here. Let's take a look at the bonus action that it can do on its own. And it has Blink Step. The Inquisitor can teleport up to 60 feet to an unoccupied space it can see. That's pretty fantastic. That's pretty much like Nimble Escape, except without the attack bonus. And allows the Inquisitor of the Sword to just move away if they're getting swarmed, or if they need to run. And 60 feet is already double movement. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to use the Shadow Stealth. That is very similar to Nimble Escape, because what's going to happen is it's going to give it a +4 AC bonus here. Now, with Nimble Escape, we'll see that our monsters can disengage or hide as a bonus action. And it's that disengage wording that's pretty important here, because disengaging allows the goblins to just run away without having to be attacked, and they can only move up to those 40 or 30 feet away. Blink Step is allowing 60 feet and is acting like a disengage as a bonus action and just happens. It's just something they can do innately. It doesn't cost a spell slot or anything. So I'm going to suggest that Blink Step gives this humanoid a +4 AC bonus here, which is pretty heavy. The only other heavy one would be Shield, which, who knows? I mean, it's got innate spellcasting here for psionics. It might be in here. I mean, I'm looking quickly and I don't see it, but it does have Fly and Greater Invisibility. So we will take those into effect as well. All right, let's see about its actions. The Inquisitor of the Sword has an attack bonus of 7, so I'll throw that in now while I'm thinking about it. And it has a multi-attack of its longsword that it can be attacked. It can hit with twice. After it hits or misses with an attack, the Inquisitor can teleport up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space it can see. Wow, this is really mobile. Gator Ninja, hi, how you doing there? Thanks for joining on this unusual Tuesday that I'm live streaming. We're currently looking at the Inquisitor of the Tome from Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, and we previously looked at the Sire of Insanity from Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica. If you have a recommendation, please throw it in chat and I will look at it after I'm done here. So not only can the Inquisitor here double attack with its longsword, it can then teleport away on top of that. And if it needs to, it can still blink step too. So it could blink step into battle, attack, and then technically blink step out for half the distance. This thing is moving like crazy. And because of that ability to move even further, I would suggest it gets even more AC, but let's see what happens with the Shadow Stealth for the time being. Alright, so the Silvered Longsword, how much damage is this doing? We only have a breastplate, so we'll use it two-handed. So we'll get 9 points of damage there. And that's going to be 9.5 plus 18 force damage as well. That's going to be a heavy hit. And it can do that twice. So we're going to multiply our one attack 2 times. And then we also have innate spellcasting from psionics. Let's just take a look at the rest of this. It can use the wisdom spellcasting. Spell save is at 15. So it can detect magic, detect thoughts, dispel magic, sending, dimension door, fly, and greater invisibility. Alright, so greater invisibility is fantastic. It's not a bonus action, but we could potentially say that between either flying or greater invisibility here, we're going to see probably a +2 AC bonus from this as well. Because it can attack while invis, because of the greater invisibility. Let's see here. I got a good one that has been making me scratch my head. Strahd from Ravenloft. Especially since he's stated to be a 10th level caster aside from being a vampire. I actually have that one finished. I've done that as a shorts, and I've even looked at it in the video. If you want to look back into my catalog, it's in there. Yeah, he's a lot stronger. I think at least a CR. I think we found CR 18 from one of the past live streams. Yeah, I have it done as a recap from a live stream and one of the live streams. Couldn't tell you what live stream it was, sadly. I'm gonna have to go back into the descriptions and list each of the monsters I covered in the live stream to make it a little easier to find those. But yeah, he's technically a lot more dangerous than the CR gives him credit. Especially if you use animate objects. Like Cornucopia was saying, all the dinnerware suddenly comes to life and is doing a load of damage. Okay, so back to what I was suggesting between fly and greater invisibility. This is a tricky one. Let's finish up the attacks though, and we'll come back to fly or greater invisibility here and see what we get. So we'll take that and just multiply that by 3. It looks like we don't even really need to worry about it because we found the CR8. Our Inquisitor of the Sword is a CR8, and that's exactly what we found, which is fantastic. So the consistent blink steps and the ability to teleport during the multi-attack is huge here. Your players are gonna have a hard time trying to fight this humanoid if they come up to battle with it. 10d4. Yeah. Yeah. From the animate object spell. That is insane. I've done calculations on that to see like if there was a better combination just for damage alone. And you can't get anything better than tiny or small objects. Even if you were to use huge objects and then fill them out with small. It's absurd. Yes, this Inquisitor of the Sword cornucopia does sound awesome. Have some of these in your campaign. Actually, with that almost lightsaber looking sword this thing is wielding, this looks like this would fit perfectly in my main campaign as a good way to finish off, or at least throw in some unique humans that I have running around in there. Yeah, that's an awesome feature, the teleporting. And just for the heck of it, let's see what would happen if we added in fly. Technically, flying wouldn't count here because the Inquisitor has to fly in to deal damage and fly out. But I'm just ticking this as a fast +2 AC because of also the greater invisibility. Alright, so with flying or greater invisibility, technically not so much flying, but if the Inquisitor were to use the greater invisibility and get that +2 AC bonus, we're probably looking at a CR9 then. But if they don't use it or forget to use greater invisibility, then or lose it, then we have a CR8, which is pretty good. Gator Ninja, I don't stream or have a podcast for any of my campaigns. Neither of my groups, I have 2 groups right now, neither of my groups seem interested in doing that sort of thing. I am considering doing some kind of streaming in the future. I have some fun ideas, but I'm kind of waiting on figuring out what to do there because I was supposed to be joining a group of people I met through TikTok, and we were going to get together and do some streaming of, I think it was going to be like Pathfinder 1E, but that kind of fell through. A couple of the people that were starting it, I haven't heard from them in like a month or so. And then some of the other people just seemed to lose interest, and one guy was moving. So I'm not streaming anything yet, but I have something rattling my brain that I would love to bring to the community and see if people were interested in following along with it. And I would be using all of these monsters that I'm adjusting here too. I do it all the time. Like my main campaign, I've used thugs a bunch, and after fixing the thugs, they were so much better at the table. They weren't, murder hobo thugs either. So that is a wish list item, Gator, that I'm looking to do eventually. All right, so the Inquisitor of the Sword has been found at CR8, provided we don't use greater invisibility prior to battle. If we use it during battle, it will drop the OCR for that round to 0 because of the fact that it needs an action to cast it. But as I always kind of wiggle with the invisibility spell, it would technically delay combat because now it's harder to find or hit the target, and may still count. I need to get clarification on that from like the heads of D&D, which would be nice, but I'm still a small-time YouTuber at the moment. In the future, though, we'll see what happens. That sounds awesome. I'd definitely be there for it. Cool. Thank you, Cornucopia. That would be fantastic. I just have to figure out when would be the most optimal time to actually stream. I know right now, like during dinner time for most people, at least for me, wouldn't be a good idea. All right, Inquisitor of the Sword. And let's see here. What did we find its numbers to be? Oh, wow. It's basically an 8 across the board, technically. And let's see here. So 8, 8, 8. Even rated. And let's see here. Using greater invis. All right. My rise already began. Well, thank you. Are there any other monster recommendations? Otherwise, I will look at the next on my list. Let's see here. What do we have? Well, we have the purple. We already did the purple worm. Yes, definitely a perfectly balanced monster. So that's where I like to. Lugaru. I've actually worked on Lugaru as well. That's in a shorts. That's the only way to see Lugaru as a short, and it's one of the initial. Like I did a whole week of Van Richten's monsters, so I have Lugaru done, and that is a pretty gnarly. That's a very gnarly werewolf. It's printed 13, and I found 14. Basically saying, oh yeah, that was funny. Lugaru is actually deadlier in their human form than shifting back and forth. You basically have to stick to one form and don't shift. And it's something weird about that. If you switch back and forth between human and hybrid form, it actually drops the CR. Oh no, that's the idea. You're supposed to shift. If you stick to one form, then Lugaru is technically a little stronger, which is really bizarre. And I think his human form, or their human form, was actually stronger. Check the shorts. The shorts was pretty funny for that one. I was shocked and pleasantly surprised compared to the original werewolf. All right. Well, let's take a look at Ogremoch. One of the princes of the apocalypse, just for the fun of it. I should have the PDF here. Yep. If there's no objections. Oh, goodness. We just gotta go right down to the bottom. Come on. Let's find you. Oh, way too many. Ogremoch's Lair, legendary actions. There we go. Okay, Ogremoch. Or is it Ogremoch? I don't know. There's a accent on it, and I don't know how to do accents, unfortunately. And now I have a kitty on my lap. Oh, this may be in it. Nope, now it's off. Okay. And this is Ogremoch. I guess I haven't I haven't been in this campaign, so I'm believing this is one of the three, or excuse me, yeah, one of the 4 Princes of the Apocalypse. Surprisingly enough, I also worked on Imix a long time ago. Someone had recommended that, and then I just recently worked on Yansi Bin. So someone said, "Hey, can you do the rest of the Princes of the Apocalypse?" And it took me a minute because, like I said, I've never been in this campaign, so I had no idea that these were the princes. Oddly enough. All right. So our tools reset, and we're taking a look at Ogremoch, a gargantuan elemental with 20 AC. Again, it's a gargantuan monster with 27 hit dice and a constitution score of 28. 15 wisdom and 22 charisma. Should be a CR 20. Let's see if that actually happens. With the base stats out of the way, we will jump into the skills area of strength, constitution, and wisdom for a saving throw of 3, giving Ogremoch a +2 AC bonus. And then we also have damage resistances and only 1 damage immunity condition. So we'll throw in damage resistance, which probably won't give us anything, surprisingly enough. But it's because it's a CR 20. Yeah, just like I thought. We're only going to get 1 times the hit points. So I think it's after CR 15 or 16. Again, I got to put that chart in place. your monsters don't get anything for resistances, because more than likely players that are fighting a CR20 should have something to counteract non-magical weapon resistances. Moving down into the monster trait section, we have empowered attacks. Ogremoch's slam attacks are treated as magical and adamantine. And for our purposes, empowered attacks doesn't matter. After that, we have innate spellcasting of Meld into Stone, Move, Earth, and Wall of Stone. I believe Wall of Stone doesn't do any kind of damage, so we're going to skip over the innate spellcasting, since there's no kind of damaging spells here, and move into the legendary resistances, which are standard and gives Ogremoch an extra 90 hit points over 3 turns. And then we have magic resistance, a pretty common duo here, giving an additional +2 AC bonus. And then the siege monster. So Ogremoch just does a whole bunch of damage to objects. Moving on, we'll move into the attacks section here and see that Ogremoch is getting a +4 to hit for its attack bonus. And we have, what do we got? Multi-attack of 2 slams. Alright, well, while we're here, let's throw the slam attacks in. And straight off, just 30 bludgeoning damage. That's all it is. Pretty straightforward. And the multi-attack is just 2 of these. So hopefully Ogremoch's doing a whole bunch of other damage. Otherwise, I don't know what's going on here. But so far, we're looking at a DCR of 27, which is pretty funny. So we have 2 slam attacks for 60 average damage. And then we also have Boulder and Summon Elementals. So Boulder is a ranged weapon attack and will hit 1 target for 46 average damage, plus knock them prone. Now the problem is prone is a condition. And since there is just a chance of it either being yes or no to the condition, this may be why D&D doesn't count most conditions here. As I explained in one of my previous live streams, restrained and grappled is based off the attack of the monster, and that's why they count that in. With things like Boulder here and a DC check, although it is strength and it's a high check of 23, there's still a chance of just not being knocked prone. So I think this is why they don't count conditions into the CR calculation, to be honest. So the Boulder is going to be 46.5 damage, but we won't be using that probably unless it comes up as a legendary action. And then we also have Summon Elemental. Summon Elemental isn't going to help Ogremoch besides being a block, but also increasing the difficulty of the encounter. So there's going to be no effect on the CR here either from Summon Elemental. It's just a damage shield technically on the side, but players can ignore the Elemental or potentially even control it, I think with a Druid. I don't play Druid, so I don't remember off the top of my head. Alright, now we have legendary actions. 3 for Lugaroo. 3 for Ogremoch. The first one being Illuminating Crystals. Ogremoch's Crystalline Protrusions flare. Each creature within 30 feet becomes outlined in orange light, shedding dim light in a 10-foot radius. So this is basically fairy fire. Pretty neat. I like the ideas of how this happens, and it's just like a big old burst of energy, and all of a sudden people are now glowing. So legendary action 1 has no effect, besides just people can't benefit from being invisible and whatnot, or hidden as well, more than likely. Stomp costs 2 actions. Ogremoch stomps the ground, creating an earth tremor that extends in a 30-foot radius. I would expect a bigger radius from a gargantuan monster, to be honest. But anyways, again, creatures fall prone, no effect here, as I explained before. And then the last one is Create Gargoyle. Okay. Ogremoch's hit points are reduced by 50 as he breaks off a chunk of his body and places it on the ground in an unoccupied space within 15 feet of him. The chunk of rock instantly transforms into a gargoyle and acts on the same initiative count as Ogremoch. Ogremoch can't use this action if he has 50 hit points or fewer. Okay, so again, just like the Create Elemental, this is only going to increase the difficulty of the encounter, adding more experience rewards to the players, provided this isn't the end of the campaign. And sadly, as far as I'm concerned, doesn't make any difference. This isn't looking too good for Ogremoch so far. We do have lair actions, so hopefully there's going to be something there, I guess. Let's see what we get for lair actions. Alright, so the first lair action is a 10-foot radius or area of rocky or earthy ground within 60 feet of Ogremoch turns to sticky mud, and creatures become restrained. A creature can take an action and make a strength check, ending the effect. Okay, that's helpful. Let's throw that in as an effect to restrain people, and I'm going to give it to 2 because this is an AoE restraining. And this will happen potentially every other round of combat because of how lair actions work. So I'm going to put Constrict and Blood Frenzy here. No, not Blood Frenzy, excuse me. Avoidance. Only for the AC bonus of 2 players being caught in the muddy earth here for 1 round of combat in the lair action. Doesn't look like it really made much of a difference, though. Now for the second lair action, crystalline spikes grow on the ground in a 20-foot radius, etc., etc. The area becomes difficult terrain. A creature that moves through the area is affected takes 1d8 piercing damage for every 5 feet it moves there. Creatures that are knocked prone in the area also take this damage. Alright, how can we work this as damage? And it's not a lot of damage, unfortunately. Well, let's see here. How big is the radius? 40 feet. 20-foot radius area within. Yeah, really. When do they start doing... There's not a lot of damage here, and I'm having a feeling... I have a sneaking suspicion here that they're using the elemental and the gargoyles damage as a way to buff up the damage here. Let's see here. There's not a lot of damage, so this really isn't even worth looking into. I mean, if a person wants to move through it, it's going to be difficult terrain, right? So they can only move 15 feet in theory. And if 2 people, unless they're going to dash, so we'll say 15 feet, so we'll do 3d8 times 3 for the 15 feet times 2 people. So we're potentially looking at 21 points of possible damage. That's about the best I can do there. I'm not going to go too crazy with it. And that can be done pretty much once every other round. And then the last lair action is a violent tremor shakes the lair. Each creature other than Ogremoch must succeed on a strength or dex save or be knocked prone. So again, unfortunately, there's nothing there as well. Alright. So let's see what kind of output we got here, because Ogremoch is not doing a lot of damage so far. I'm just going to double check that I didn't miss anything here. Wow, no, I didn't. This is a weird monster. Let's see what happens. I mean, nothing else really going on here. So we got multi-attack plus the lair action for some damage, provided 2 players move through it, and that's just a sheer guess. Round 2 will just be the multi-attack plus something else, and then round 3 is, again, 60 plus possibly the lair action here. How did that even happen? How did we get CR 21? What? It's supposed to be a 20, and somehow, out of all that hemming and hawing that I did, and not thinking this was going to happen, we're underrated by technically 1. I don't understand how that happened. And if we only use 1 lair action for the difficult terrain, which more than likely is going to be the case, we're still at, wow, we're still at a CR 21. That is mind-boggling. Huh. Was not expecting that. So, you want a real tanky monster? Here you go. DCR 28 is pretty absurdly tanky. That is disturbing. What happens if we take that off too? Alright, if we take off the potential for the Muddy Earth from one of the lair actions, I think it was. yeah, if we take off the Muddy Earth there for the other lair actions, so we technically have a CR20. And let me go back here just for the heck of it and put this back in place. Alright, so Ogremoch is somewhere around 20 or 21. If we don't count the lair actions, we're probably looking at a CR20. And let me fix this real quick. Yeah. So without the lair actions, Ogremoch is even rated. And even then, with the crystalline spikes or the muddy earth, there's not a good chance of that kind of stuff happening, but we should technically take that into account. So without the lair action, Ogremoch is a CR20. This is an even rated monster, somehow. With as little damage as this monster is doing, and the massive defenses that it has, as we can see here in the dark blue, they pulled off a CR20. This is absurd. Let's see here. Clawpaw says, slap some shenanigan glass cannons to the encounter and boom, nasty boss. Indeed. That is definitely a nasty boss. So, yeah, having some kind of casters or ranged attacks as well moving around with this. Oof. I can only imagine what the actual encounter looks like in the Princes of the Apocalypse campaign. That is bizarre. And if you happen to fight Ogremoch in their lair, CR21. So it's not that much different, to be honest. And a 20 and a 21, at this point where you're fighting those, and they haven't been reduced somehow, if there is a way to reduce Ogremoch from the CR20, that's going to be an interesting fight. It's going to be a long slog, that's for sure. This guy is a walking, talking 3-hour encounter with that DCR. That is for sure. This is one of those, alright, we're at round 15. It's been 4 hours. Can we just go home already? Oh, man. Oof. Yikes. Okay, well, I'm going to say it's even rated at CR20 if we don't count in the lair actions. That is just wrong. Alright, so we got 27, 12, and 20. Let me take a mark of that. Ogremoch. There we go. 27. Shoot. What did I say? 12? Yeah, alright. 12 and 20. It's very rare to actually see a balanced, like, endgame boss at this point. I've never really had even rated bosses, to be fair. Everything is usually extremely underrated. It's got a high DCR, and it's absurd. The only one that hasn't been has been the Lich. The Lich has been overrated, has a horrible DCR, kind of bursty OCR damage, and from what everyone says, just players wipe the floor with Liches. That's probably why they have the rejuvenation ability, or whatever it is, so they can come back with their phylactery and just be, pains in the butts to our players. I don't know. Well, that was fun. Do we have any other recommendations for the last 10, 15 minutes or so? I could look at the Specter. That's potentially an easy one. I mean, more than likely it'll be easy. It's just a Specter, CR1, but who knows? It'll probably be terrible. Cornucopia says, yeah, right. Somehow this guy balanced, but boy, howdy, I would never use them. Yeah. And the funny part too is when I've heard top 10 lists of campaign books from D&D, Princes of the Apocalypse is never on that list. Like top 5s or top 8s, maybe top 10, but even then, this book is not on there. All right, let's take a look at the Specter if we don't have any other recommendations here. And I'm looking too fast. There we go. I really don't know why I haven't been doing this in the first place. There we go. Specter. If anyone saw my, I think it was Ghost or something. I don't remember which one it was. I used the same artwork for that. Oh, yeah, there was the poltergeist, I think. Yeah, with their invisibility. Oh man, that was horrible. Someone on TikTok requested the poltergeist, and I didn't know what to do with that permanent invisibility. It was bad. I think I just gave it like I guess a +10? Sure. Alright, with the tool set, our Specter here has 12 AC, is medium undead, 5d8 of hit points, a constitution of 11, 10 wisdom, and 11 charisma, and should be a CR1. Let's see here. Moving into the skills area, we have damage resistances of acid, cold, fire, lightning, thunder. I think that's pretty much the whole complement except for like psionics and poison. Plus damage, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing, which is a lot considering. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. Damage immunities to necrotic and poisoning. Because it's a CR1, doesn't matter if we choose either one of these. It's going to be a ×2 hit point bonus. I mean, resistance right here, we've already got 2 times the hit points. If we go to immunities, we've also got 2 times the hit points. So we're looking at effectively 44 hit points so far for our Specter. Beyond that, we also have condition immunities, which don't matter for the terms of the CR, and we can skip right down into the monster traits. Now, everyone knows incorporeal movement. It just means that the monster or the Specter can move through players as difficult terrain, and if they stop there, they take the damage. But because of this, there's no effect whatsoever with incorporeal movement. And then we also have sunlight sensitivity. Arasta from Mythic Odysseys. Okay, Gator, if I have time, which I probably will, or I'll do it anyways, regardless, we'll take a look at Arasta after I'm finished with the Specter here. Because we're almost done with this. Moving into the action, since sunlight sensitivity, on the other hand, is also no effect. Surprisingly enough, even though any kind of sunlight will give the Specter disadvantage on attacks and perception checks, etc. There's no effect. It's bizarre. So we'll move right down into the actions of Life Drain. And our Specter has a 4 for its attack bonus. And then moving over, we will... Actually, I don't even have to move over. I'll just throw it right in because this is the only thing it does. It just does the damage and then saps Constitution. So we're looking at 10.5 points of necrotic damage. Well, it's underrated. Or, excuse me, it's overrated. That's surprising. Even with the extra... Wow. Even with the extra hit points, our DCR is a quarter... because of the horrible AC. And actually, even with the horrible AC, it doesn't make any kind of a movement, so it stays at the DCR 1. But we need more damage, surprisingly enough, to get it up to a CR1. To a CR1. So how much damage do we need to actually do here? Well, let's see. Let me put in the dice correctly, and then we can play with it from there. Let's see here. Round down. And it would be... 3.5 times 3 for total of 10 points of damage. So let's see. We'll start with 4 dice. We'll up it to 4 d6 instead of 3d6, and we'll see. Still hasn't moved. 14 points of damage. All right. Let's try 5. There we go. So here's our quick fix. Ouch. Wow. To quick fix the Specter and get it up to a CR1 based off of all the little bits that it has, we actually need to give the Life Drain 5d6 necrotic damage in order for it to actually be where it's supposed to be at a CR1. Did not expect that, to be honest. I wasn't expecting an overrated monster. But let me take a quick note of that. Specter, quick jump down there. Get rid of that. Alright, so we've evaluated that. It was 1/4, 1, and we found a 1/2. It's overrated, and quick fix was plus 2d8, excuse me, 2d6 to the Life Drain. Good enough. Alright, so, Gator Ninja, you wanted Arasta from Mythic Odysseys. Let me pull that book up, and we will finish this off tonight with that. All right, Mythic Odysseys. Let's see if the if we have the monsters here. Fiends and foes. No. All right, I'm gonna have to just search. Arasta. Oh dear. Looks like we've got a bit of work ahead of us. And that is Arasta. Ooh, lovely. All right. Oh no. Oh no. Does this have mythic abilities? Oh no. Oh, I've done one of these already with mythic. Oh, they're horrible once the mythic ability hits. Oh no. Oh man. All right. 21. Arasta from Mythic Odysseys of Theros. Let's see what we have here. This one's going to be fun. Zoom in a little bit more. Arasta. A huge monstrosity with 19 AC. Once again, a huge beast with 24 D12 hit dice. Constitution, oh man, a con score of 23, Constitution, there we go, 22 Wisdom, and 17 Charisma, and should be a CR 21. I doubt they're counting in mythic abilities as well. All right, and then moving into the skills section, now that our base stats are out of the way, we have 3 saving throws, so that'll give Arasta +2 AC bonus. We have a bunch of skills we don't care about, and we have damage resistances. I have a hard time saying that very fast. I don't know why. Which isn't, I mean, we can put it in, but because it's CR 21, we're not going to get anything out of it. And the damage immunities to acid and poison, there's only 2 conditions, so I wouldn't consider those a thing. Unless there's something else giving Arasta any kind of damage immunities. This may not be a thing. We can take a look at it later on if we haven't hit the 21, but I'm sure we will. So let's move down into the monster traits for Arasta and see what we have here. So we have Armor of Spiders, which is a mythic trait and will recharge on a short or long rest. If Arasta is reduced to 0 hit points, she doesn't die and falls unconscious. Instead, she regains 200 hit points. In addition, Arasta's children immediately swarm over her body to protect her, granting her 100 temporary hit points. So Arasta just gets an additional 300 hit points. So we're doubling the hit dice, technically. So we'll take a look at that once we've hit everything here. And double Arasta's hit points, because that's going to be a big jump there. And that's what happened with the giant Kraken that I did a few weeks ago. I don't remember their name, unfortunately. So the next thing we have is Legendary Resistance for 3. And that will give an additional 90 hit points. On top of that, we have Magic Resistance for an additional AC bonus. Spider Climb, which doesn't matter. There's no effect to that. And there's no effect to Web Walker as well. Now we have actions. And Arasta has a +14 to hit on top of the multi-attacks that I guess she can do. They can do. We'll just go with they. They can make 3 attacks, 1 with the bite. Oh, they do say her. All right. So she makes 3 attacks, 1 with her bite and 2 with her claws. And the bite will deal, let's see here. We're looking at 20.5 piercing damage and a con save for 32 points of poison damage. So that was 20.5 plus 32.5, giving us 53 points of damage from the bite alone. And then next we have the claws, which will deal 17.5 damage. And the multi-attack was 1 bite and 2 claws, if I remember correctly, for a total of 88 points of damage. Next, we also have Web of Hair, which I'm briefly scanning through and seeing no damages to it, unless I'm seeing restrained. Let's see. Yes, the creature is restrained while in the web. But here's the thing. The web takes an action to do, and there's no damage. If it said Arasta makes the attacks and also does the web of hair, then I would take into consideration the restraining from the web of hair. But because it doesn't and there's no damage, I'm not going to include the bonuses from that right now. So let's move down into legendary actions and see what we have as well. So Arasta can make one attack with her claws. So straight up, if we were just to do 3 claws, because she has 3 legendary actions, it would be a total of 52.5 for that. And then lair action number 2 is Swarm. Arasta causes 2 swarms of spiders to appear in unoccupied spaces. Again, doesn't help her CR, only helps increase the difficulty of the encounter. So we will, excuse me, I put that in the wrong spot, so I'll just put 52 there. Legendary action 2 does nothing. And then Toxic Web. Each creature restrained by Arastra's web of hair takes 18 points of damage. So let's see what this looks like. This may be worth doing maybe once. How many more times can I say maybe? We're already up to 3. Alright, the Toxic Web will deal 18 points of damage to 1 target, and we usually do 2. So we're looking at 18 times 2 for a total of 36. It's cute, but Arasta can do more damage from just multi-attacks and the legendary action here. There's really no point in doing anything else. And I don't think she has... Does she have lair actions? I hope not. Let me just take a quick look here. Oh, Lord, she does... Oh, no, she does have lair actions. Alright, I'm going to breeze through these real quick. 2 lair actions. What? Alright, the first one is weird. Gains knowledge of the creature's name, race, and where they consider home. Alright, so that's probably something for the campaign. And then the other one casts the giant insect spell. Alright, so the lair effects, there's nothing for Arasta in lair effects, thankfully. But we will use the lair action section for mythic actions. I mean, why not, right? So let's see here. Oh dear. Okay. So if Arasta hits mythic trait, if the mythic trait is active, then we get some new stuff here. And we get swipe, which is 2 claw attacks instead of 1. So now we can multiply this times 6 for a total of 105 damage during mythic Arasta. Arastra, excuse me. I'm having a hard time talking. And then Web of Hair recharges. Okay, so Web of Hair will recharge, but technically wouldn't be worth the use. And Nyx Weave. Each creature restrained by Arastra's Web of Hair must succeed on a con save or take 26 force damage, and any spell of 6 level or lower on it ends. Oh, wow. Okay. So there is some cause for using her web during mythic actions. And I would suggest, let's see here. So it would be that plus, I'm not going to add that in. So let's see what happens here. All right, it's just going to be 26 times 2 for that. Plus we would add in the toxic web damage from there. So it is possible that she would be doing a whole lot more damage. Let's just see what would happen there. It would cost 2 actions. All right, first it would cost nothing for the web of hair to do it. Oh, yeah, but then she could do the Nyx Weave plus a swipe of 2 claw attacks. You know what? It may still not be nearly as good as we think. So it would be 52... Man, that was weird. Oh, gunshots in the background. Someone's shooting their gun for some reason. Which isn't usually the case around here. I mean, I do live in a country area, but someone must be playing with a gun, I hope. Let's see here. Yeah, I don't know how to work the damage here. I mean, we wouldn't be able to use Toxic Web because the mythic actions use the points as legendary actions. So then we would just do the 52 points of damage plus 2 claw attacks, which is what? 17 times 2 would be 30 plus 34 damage. It's still not nearly as good as doing a whole bunch of swipes. So I'm just going to suggest that during Mythic time, she would end up having a whole bunch of extra damage from this instead, and getting a lot more going there. So we're going to do this in two turns here. First, we're going to start with normal Arasta. She's going to do a multi-attack plus the bunch of claw attacks for 140 damage. And we're going to do that for all 3 rounds of combat. And we're looking at a CR 22. Just from her damaging alone. All the damage she can do. So that's not terrible. I mean, it's an underrating of 1. But, like I say, at this point in time, it's really not that big of a deal, honestly. I mean, she's 22 across the board. Which, again, is unusual. But we're still technically overrated. Or underrated by 1 step. Now, let's see what happens when we kick it up a notch and go into mythic actions. This is going to be horrible. So we're literally going to just double the hit dice. I'm going to go from 24 to 48. And then, let's fix this. So we have, if we just use all of her mythic abilities and her attacks and whatnot, we have a multi-attack here, plus we would use the swipes for a total of 193 points of damage. When Arasta goes into mythic time, she now becomes a CR 27. That's not nearly as bad as the Crustaceous Kraken that I had looked at, because I actually had to go beyond the CR 30 to figure out what it could be potentially. So Arasta is a CR 22 before mythic time, and then when Arasta goes into mythic actions, she becomes a CR 27. It's not terrible, but I hope the players have ways of healing up and dealing with this amount of damage, because, or just this length of battle and how epic these encounters are going to be. Man, that is ridiculous. All right, let me take a note of that. Arasta evaluated, and we found 22 across the board. Actually, let me see here. 22 underrated, and then her mythic levels were 29, 24, and 27. 29, 24, and whoops, come on, 22, 27. Well, there you go, Gator. That is Arasta, a pretty gnarly mythic monster from Mythic Odysseys of Theros, and quite the beast of a monster to have to fight. I've had a great time. I hope you've all had a great time. Thank you for joining me on this unusual Tuesday night for live streaming. It's been a load of fun, especially for the couple recommendations we got, and pointing Gator to a couple of the monsters that are already done, which was excellent to see. It's always nice when someone asks for something and go, hey, I've got that one, just hold on a minute. And with that, I need to wrap it up and go get some dinner. Thank you all for watching. You've been awesome. And this is Andrew with Exposing D&D Monsters, hoping that all your encounters are even rated.